The second game we have on this episode is Dice Forge.
Designed by Régis Bonnessée, artist is Biboun, and published by Libellud.
So Dice Forge, from my understanding, takes place in the same world as Seasons and Lords of Zidit. I could be wrong, but I think it is.
You're correct.
And I feel really bad because every time Eric starts talking about games, he tells people a story. And I don't know the story to most of these games, so I'm going to read you the paragraph that's on Board Game Geek. Heroes, stand ready. The gods are offering a seat in heaven to whichever hero defeats their rivals. Your courage and wits will be the most precious allies as you use divine dice to gather resources along the road to victory. That tells you just about as much as the theme actually has an impact on the game.
Yep.
The game basically is you get 2 customizable dice, you roll them, you get cool gold, one of 3 different resources. You spend those resources to buy new faces for your dice, or possibly cards that will give you abilities at the end of 9 or 10 rounds, depending on the player count. Whoever has the most points wins. I mean, there's a theme smacked on there, but the artwork's amazing. So it is kind of a neat, cohesive theme. You just don't care about it.
Mm-hmm.
So the way the game works is, like I said, you have these 2 larger dice. The components of this game are phenomenal, by the way, just starting off telling you this. But basically the dice, think of rattle bones where you can pluck off the sides of the dice and put a new facing on there. The game board actually has the insert, the little board that has all the different faces that lays on top of it. So you actually use the box to the game. I guess you really don't have to, though. But it does sit in there really nice, and it stays snug, because if you hit that thing, they're all going to pop up, you know, like playing Perfection or something, and they're going to pop up and be everywhere. So you do want to kind of leave them in the box. There's a little unfold thing that you put next to it that has spots for, like, I don't know, like 12 different stacks of cards that kind of go around it, and it looks pretty neat. But anyway, the way the game works is, on a player's turn, the first thing that happens is that all players are going to roll both their dice, and they're going to get what it says. Now, your dice are going to start off very basic. You're going to have a lot of different sides for gold, 1 gold. You're going to have the other 2 currencies, which are sun and moon, or it might be called something different, but that's pretty much what I'm calling them. So sun points or moon points. Again, you get 1 of each of those. And the last thing is, one of the dice has a 2 victory point symbol. And you have a spot on your player board that's like in the inset board, so you have all these little cubes that fit into the holes as you move it along. So you roll your dice. That's called a divine blessing, is when you roll both your dice. Everybody gets that. Then the player who's the active player gets to take the rest of their turn. So every turn, all players are rolling their dice. Then one player will take their turn. Your turn works out where, after the dice are rolled, you get to do reinforcements, which are all those cards that you can purchase. Some of them have instant abilities that happen once when you buy them. You're typically going to buy them, or not typically, you are going to buy them with either sun or moon points. There's one that always costs both. It's like 5 and 5. Otherwise, some of those will also have a reinforcement icon that means you get a special ability every turn. Like sometimes it might allow you to roll 1 die and get the symbol. Sometimes it'll just say you can collect one of these 3 things. So if you didn't get what you rolled, maybe you can get it from that. Anyway, after you do all your reinforcement cards, then you actually take your meat of your turn, which is essentially spend gold to buy new faces for your dice, or go over on the board and move your pawn to one of the spaces in front of a card and buy that card. If somebody else later that will move onto you, it'll push you off and you get a divine blessing where you can roll both your dice. So there's a little bit of a blocking mechanism there, but you're not fully blocking. It just gives less incentive for people to go there, because you might get to roll the dice and get something cool out of it. Anyway, after you do that, you have the option to spend 2 of your sun tokens, which I would assume is the more rare symbol if they're using that one for extra turns, but it seems to me like I got kind of an even amount of both anyway.
That's what I felt.
Yeah, but you do spend sun tokens. You'd spend 2 to take another action. Not a full turn, but it allows you to either buy more faces on your dice, or you can go back and move your pawn to stay still, or move him to buy another card. The only stipulation to buying faces is, you know, you'll see like different sections. So it'll say for 2 gold, you can buy one of these 8 tokens, but they're all like either 2 gold or like 1 of the moon symbols or whatever it is. The only stipulation is anytime you do a purchase action, you can't buy 2 of the exact same thing. So I can't buy 2 3-point gold faces, but I could buy a 3-pointer and a 2-pointer through the different like things or whatever. But you can spend as much gold as you want and buy all those things. Some of the cards, like I said, are, single actions. Sometimes they'll give you things each round during the reinforcements. The only other 2 to note, and I want to just point these out, there's one that actually flips over and goes on your player board, and it gives you another track to move, like this hammer that you're forging something like an anvil and a forge. And basically, if you roll gold, you can, instead of taking the gold, you can move that symbol up. And when it reaches the end, you get points. It flips over and you do it again. It gets more points than you're done. So it gives you a way to like dump your gold later on. And the last thing is you can actually buy a extender to your board because you can only hold so much gold, moon, and sun points, and then it'll extend it and allow you to have more of those resources. Otherwise, when you roll, Matt will roll, Eric will roll, player 3 will roll, and then it's my turn and I'm going to roll. So you're essentially taking at least 4 turns of rolling both your dice and getting those resources. So sometimes when it gets back to you, at least later in the game, if you haven't spent something, you might actually start losing resources because you don't have anywhere to move the token up. Like I said, depending on the player count, which is usually 9 rounds, I think it's only 10 in a 3-player game. Whoever has the most points is the winner. You're going to get points from all the cards that you purchase. They'll have a victory point cost depending on the special ability. Sometimes they're only victory points. There is no special ability. You'll get the victory points that you've gathered throughout the whole game, and whoever has the most points is the winner. So Matt, we're going to start with you because I think that's the only time you've played it, right?
Yes.
All right. What did you think of it?
I really enjoyed this game. To start off with, the components are really nice. The dice are good and chunky. They're not chintzy. I didn't have a problem taking them out with my fingernails. I know some people need like a crowbar or something, but whatever.
Like a
Lego
crowbar.
Sorry, a Lego crowbar.
Yeah, I guess it is worth mentioning that in the game rules, it basically says to use another face. Typically, the one that you're purchasing, you use the corner of it to pop the one off,
right?
And that's what I usually do. And it works out fine.
I thought the little like board that had all the tiles inset in it,
the insert,
the insert in the box was pretty ingenious there too. To always,
nice presentation for that.
And but as far as the game, it's fairly simple. But I like the fact that you always feel engaged. Everyone's rolling together, so you're constantly rolling, building up resources. That alone is always fun. Then you finally get to your turn, and it's not like a big major decision to spend it. The biggest decision you'll probably have is like if you have a bunch of gold, is like what different sections to buy from. Maybe like if I want to buy a 2 section and some from like the 8 section or whatever, and you can only buy one of that face.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the biggest decision making you'll have. Otherwise, it'll just be what to spend your cards on, and maybe if you want to push someone off and not give them a divine blessing or whatever. Might alter your decision a little bit, but yeah, I mean it's pretty streamlined on your decision making, and putting the dice together and everything, it's enjoyable. It's a nice little kind of family style weight game.
Yeah. So Eric, when we first played this game, we played it on Tabletop Simulator because we wanted to try it out before we bought it. And when you play 2 players, there is one little mention of something we didn't do. We thought the game was a 5-minute long game.
It was really fast.
It was really fast. It was like 20 minutes. And not that this makes the game any like that much longer. Basically what we were doing is on a 2-player game, you still just roll once. Like everybody rolls, I take my turn. Everybody rolls, Eric takes his turn. Well, we're in the 2-player game, it's supposed to be everybody rolls, or both players roll twice. Player A takes his turn. Everybody rolls twice. Player B takes his turn. And that basically gives you the same amount of resources that a 4-player game would be at the end of all the rounds.
Which actually I feel would even increase the game further. Oh, I guess you do have the same amount of rounds, but it seemed like it was pretty quick. So I would think that being able to double your resources would accelerate the game, but maybe it wouldn't because you have the same amount of rounds anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there's still the same amount of rounds, but
I felt like points.
Basically, I think what was happening when we played it wrong is we didn't gather as much resources before it was our turn, so we didn't have anything to do. So you're like, I'm gonna pass. You know what I mean? Or you might buy like one face, and Because otherwise you could buy like sometimes we bought like 3 faces before, like 4 faces. If you buy a lot of low point things, sometimes people dump like a have a $12 round where they buy one thing that's worth 12.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is, like, when you're playing it the other way, even on the first round when it's your turn, you could pretty much buy a lot. Like, the game does start off real fast. You know, it's like 0 to 60. You start off going 40 miles an hour rather than, you know, like traditional like deck builders and stuff where it's like maybe it takes you like
slow and
5 reshuffles before you have a decent thing going.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what was happening is when we did it one time, it's like you roll, you got 2 gold. I roll, I got 2 gold. Now I've got 4 gold. You know, how many options do you have? So our turns were really quick for like 4 rounds and then started to get lengthier.
True.
But I have played it since then with 2 players doing the normal rules. I love it almost as much as 4 players. My only problem is in a 4, well, okay, I like it. It's a scale here, right?
Sure.
In a 2-player game, what's awesome, and in a 3-player game, but I've never played it 3 players. In a 2 and 3 player game, you randomly remove some of the faces from each section. So it's possible that 4 victory point side is not in the game.
Right. So you can't do the same thing.
You can't take the
every
same
game.
strategy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people are fighting, the players are fighting more over what's there, and what might combo off of each other or whatever. On top of that, each deck of the cards, there's not 4 copies. There's only 2 or 3, depending on the player count. Pretty sure it's 1 per player. But the other thing is, like in a 4-player game, what's nice, even though you have all the choices of sides, which is fine, I guess, because you have 4 people buying stuff rather than just 2. But I like the fact in a 4-player game that there's more, not really blockage, but there's more people to kick around and reasons to not choose a card to go to it. In a 2-player game, I felt like I just do whatever I want.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just go here because whatever, he's probably not going to go there. But anyway, what'd you think, Eric?
Oh no, I generally liked it. I did appreciate it. It was a faster game because it is really luck dependent. You're rolling these dice. You're having sides that aren't, especially going to help you that much. You're going to have some sides that help you a lot more. So anything that's real luck dependent, you don't want it to be a really lengthy game.
Yeah.
So the timeline on the game worked out really well. Like you said, the dice and the components were really nice.
Did you say it's at 75 minutes?
45.
Oh, what? 45. Yeah, okay.
No. And then
Merlin, I think.
It says 75 minutes.
Gotcha.
Probably for a 2-player game, but I digress.
Yeah. Moving on.
Yeah. I did like some of the cards where, you can go for, straight victory, or you can, get something that would help you
in the long run.
Throughout the game. So, earlier strategy, you might try to get something that would help you, but later in the game, you really want something that gives you more, straight VP. Some of the things I didn't like, which it wasn't a lot, at the end of the game, there is a bit of teardown. You have to get your dice back into its original form. You got to put all those little tokens back
on Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah, you just click done.
Done, exit, power off.
And then one thing I didn't like as well is just the box art. It was just not engaging for me. It doesn't say by me for myself. So
no, I can see that because the box art literally is just like a
gem.
Definitely not as good as the other 2 games.
Yeah. I do like the art in Seasons of Lore is it. However, I think that I like the design of the art better. If that makes
inside
sense.
The box.
Yeah. Well, not like for instance, like look at Seasons and Lords of Zed. It has good art because of the characters and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But like the I guess the graphic arts of the game was cooler in Dice Forge. But either way, I mean, yeah, I agree. The box tells you nothing about the game, just like the little blurb I read.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, though, I do like the art style, and I like the color, like the vibrant color to it.
The inside of the game wasn't bad. It was just the box art for me was really unappealing.
Fantastic insert, though. I feel like inserts like that almost, they're good, but they almost takes way longer to put games up. Like Lords of Waterdeep takes forever to put away.
Mm-hmm.
And I could take a game that has twice the amount of components with a bunch of bags, and it's up real fast.
Yeah.
Throw all your pieces in the player bag that I gave you. Bam. Whereas like that's like put all 1,500 of your pieces in these small little squares. So it looks pretty,
And it makes setup easier because it's bam, it's already set up.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I would trade putting the game away
Faster.
slower and bringing it out quicker.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, because then you can pull out the game and be like, you want to play a game? Bam,
Bam,
lids
we're
off,
ready.
we're good to go.
Right.
More people are going to have well, first off, our group doesn't really care, but I think overall, more people are going to not lose attention to the game if it has a short setup or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, anyway, I think it's a phenomenal game. I really enjoyed it. I was kind of weary at first because when we played it a 2-player, but then we played it again and again. And yeah, fantastic. This is one I'm going to keep around. I'm glad I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you, GameStop, for your sales.
Yes.
Any final thoughts?
No.
Yeah.
No, I liked it.
Yeah.
I do have one final thought, which I just remembered that I wrote down here, is that I feel like the only problem with it is, even though it's fun, I don't think it has the replayability with the same people because there's not that many cards to switch out,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to see all the same stuff every time you play. But it is really fun to bring it out when you're playing with somebody who's never played it before, because I'm okay with enduring like the exact same game over and over with new people. But like, say us three played it 15 times in a row, I would kind of be like, meh.
Yeah.
I wish it
It's
had
good-
like a whole lot of expansion stuff that I could just swap out, or maybe even like swap out the basic faces to add new things or whatever.
Right.
I think an expansion could really make this game
Oh yeah.
even better. So anyway, that's Dice Forge